Today we sat down with mental health professional Lauren Riley to discuss the intersection of trauma, power-based violence, substance use, and mental illness. Lauren is an LCSWC in Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia. She grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland, and attended Hood College for her undergraduate studies before attending the University of Maryland School of Social Work for her MSW. She's a board-approved social work supervisor with experience working in crisis residential and community co-occurring disorder treatment programs. Her primary areas of focus include early intervention, services in onset of mental illness in young adults, their families, and assertive connection to resources, along with community behavioral health support to people living with chronic and persistent mental illness. She is also a certified case manager. Lauren is also the co-owner of Two Coins Behavioral Health Group, located in Frederick County, Maryland, and is currently a doctoral student at the University of Kentucky School of Social Work with a research focus on workforce equity, development, and empowerment of direct care staff in human service organizations. Lauren, can you share with us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you for having me. Maybe we should talk a little bit about how we know each other first. What do you think?
I would love that.
So it was a dark and stormy night. Just kidding. So it was amazing meeting you as a fellow adjunct.
Yes.
I think we sat together at our orientation.
We did at the local Hood College for those who are not from the area or from Maryland, a local liberal arts college.
And the rest is history, so they say.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, absolutely. Because Lauren had already taught before. So I was like, please give me all of your knowledge about teaching a social work class at a college level.
Well, you were already prepared with your syllabus before orientation. So I don't know how much I shared, but it went down really well.
I mean, to be fair, orientation was like the week before classes. But I would have appreciated any and all.
I was prepared like a couple days before.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
and I've been told
that.
You're the best teacher ever. And I'm not just saying that.
I love being a social worker. I should say, first and foremost, social work is the fabric of my being, for sure. And being able to teach at any level, bachelor's level, master's level, has been a huge blessing in many, many ways. It's been wonderful. So
when you say being a social worker is the fabric of your being, what do you mean by that?
I think it has shaped my worldview. It's helped build self-awareness. It's also really helped me understand, I think, the human experience, because even though my experience is different than others, something that we all share in common is the human experience. So being able to have compassion and empathy, even if you really haven't walked in someone's shoes, is still a great way to connect with someone especially when they're struggling.
Absolutely. And I know you utilize all of those skills in your day-to-day job. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I work at Avery Road Treatment Center, and that is a substance abuse treatment facility in Rockville. And I'm the director of clinical services. So I primarily work in the inpatient program, so short-term substance abuse treatment. But a huge component of my job is clinical supervision. So being able to work with younger staff that are kind of coming on or new to the field, whether it's substance abuse, mental health, because we do see people living with co-occurring disorders. But I think the clinical supervision is probably one of my most favorite aspects of my work, for sure.
Yeah. And why is that? Is that the connection that you get with those individuals, being able to kind of mold them similar to when you teach?
I know that I have been surrounded by amazing supervisors in my life. On every place I've ever worked, I have been supported in every way. And I try really hard to provide that experience to students and to the people I supervise for their clinical supervision. That's really important to me.
So it sounds like at the core of it is relationships, which connects pretty well, of course, with Hartley House. For those who may not know about Hartley House, again, we're a local nonprofit in the Frederick, Maryland area, and we support victims and survivors of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and child abuse. And so relationship and relationship trauma in particular is something that, we really focus on.
It does really connect. I should also add that a huge intersection of all of this is ensuring that any staff in a human services organization that is going to interact with people being served, clients, patients, consumers, whatever language is used at your agency, is really important. We couldn't operate facilities if we didn't have frontline direct care staff. And I think that probably a lot of the work at Hartley House is you're supporting people that are at a extremely vulnerable state, and providing an environment where people feel safe. But really, it's on the staff to provide that environment. And I can speak from my experience providing support and training and development to the staff who are really the first face that people see when people are coming into treatment is so important, and could really make or break someone's experience.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I say all of the time that especially our 24/7 hotline workers, they have the hardest job because of just what you're saying. Not only are they hearing really, really hard and difficult stories that need to be shared and told, but they're also the front line, right? They're often the first person that has any contact with a client or a potential client of Hartley House's. And that's really meaningful work. And like you said, it can make or break that relationship that we will end up having with an individual. And so when we're talking about power-based violence, which is like the overarching term that I like to use when it comes to intimate partner violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, child abuse, the reason why we call it power-based violence is because at the core of it, there is a power dynamic there, right? So especially with our work at Hartley House, it is our job not to mimic that power and control that they've already experienced with an abuser or a perpetrator, whether that be an intimate partner, a family member, right? Whoever that abuser is. It's so important that we are self-aware and making sure that we are giving clients the opportunity to make decisions for themselves, not sway them one way or the other, and understand that like just our presence in the room or on the phone call is going to change the dynamic in that relationship, because we are technically seen as the experts. And so people may automatically feel like we, as the workers, have more of an answer than the people who are calling to us.
Absolutely. Well, as a fellow MSW,
yes,
right, we can ensuring that people have in whatever space they can, right? Because in the environments that we work in, there are going to be boundaries and structures and protocols. But giving people the chance for that autonomy, in some environments, maybe they have 3 choices, and other environments they have 6 choices. But what are we doing to provide people the chance to make that choice? Can be really powerful if we're going to go back to the word power. Let's shift shift it a little bit. The other thing I was going to say is when we talk about helping relationships and power dynamics, ensuring that we are well. What are we doing to take care of ourselves so that when we go in to support people who are experiencing whatever it is they're experiencing, that we can operate from a place of neutrality, curiosity, not judgment, I'll quote Carl Rogers, unconditional positive regard, as challenging as that can be sometimes.
And for those who don't have a social work degree, can you explain a little bit about what that means?
Oh, goodness. Now I'm going to go back to my textbooks.
Just give us an overarching idea.
Well,
it doesn't have to be
essentially,
specific.
Carl Rogers believed a lot in just the power of the human spirit and giving people an opportunity to make their own choices. And I think at the core of the work that we do as social workers, that really adheres to our code of ethics.
For sure.
So maybe going into environments where we're supporting frontline staff, yes, most of my coaching is from a social work perspective. But all of our helping professions have a code of ethics.
Absolutely.
So ensuring that we're adhering to that is really important. I was thinking too about going back to the helping relationship, but I would imagine at Hartley House, people are coming in and maybe their schema of relationships in general have been shifted in one direction. And as the helping professional, what are we doing to ensure that we're modeling a healthy reciprocal relationship and a professional relationship, right? Like, I'm a friendly professional. We're not here to be friends. I can support you and guide you in a direction where you can make friends, if that's a goal for you, but this relationship is going to be neutral, reciprocal, healthy, and we have identified objectives that we're working toward, which again, there's a power imbalance, right? If I have access to your medical record and you don't have access to mine, we're not friends.
Yeah.
And I need to make sure I'm carrying myself in that way.
And for somebody who may be getting into a therapeutic relationship, meaning that they have never gone to therapy or seek counseling before, and they are scared to do so, maybe because it feels clinical or non-reciprocal in that way, do you have anything that you would say to those individuals to encourage them to seek support?
Well, I always say you can shop around. I think it's really important that, and I mean that truly, we're humans. You're not going to like everyone. Do you need to like your therapist? Well, you need to like them enough to go back every week.
Yes. And respect them, I think, too.
For sure.
Right? Like, like them
sure.
enough to respect them and hear them out and what they have to say.
And asking what's their style? You know, are they going to operate from I'm going to be really direct. I'm going to use a lot of humor. Some people might not like that, and that's okay. But I think that especially in those first sessions or when you're calling to ask about, do you have any availability? You as the client you should be interviewing the therapist just as much. Like, that's your time. Take that 15-minute free consultation, my friends.
So really empowering the person that's getting the
Absolutely.
support to say, like, just because you go into one office with one therapist doesn't mean it needs to be the end all be all, especially if you don't feel like you are getting what you need from that
Absolutely.
session. It's totally okay to, as they call it, break up with your therapist.
Absolutely. And what a great way for a relationship to be modeled in a way where the ending can be healthy.
Yes.
You can say, I don't know if this is a great fit, and I'm looking for someone that I can kind of go in this direction with. And that's all good.
Yeah. And sometimes that's really hard to do as well. So especially if you're listening and you're like, oh goodness, maybe I do need to shop around a little bit more. Or maybe even just the idea of having that conversation is so intimidating that I don't want to go and start that relationship. I want everyone to know too that, like, it does take time. It takes some practice. It takes some self-encouragement, but
Absolutely.
you absolutely have the right to tell people how you feel. And that should be reciprocated in a respectful manner.
Right.
And if that hasn't happened in the past, I am very sorry that that hasn't happened, because that's not right. But there are people in relationships out there that can help you get to a place where that feels like a safer option for you to do.
100%.
Yeah.
And if you're going to therapy to process trauma or exploitation in previous relationships, if that therapeutic relationship isn't going in that direction, probably a good time to switch, right? I'm
Yes.
giving everyone permission. You can switch.
And sometimes that's what people need. They just
Absolutely.
need an outside person to say, hey, look, what you're going through is not right. That's not professional, right?
Absolutely.
And it's okay to seek someone else. But I also, before we get too ahead of ourselves, I also wanted to talk a little bit about just defining power-based violence, substance use disorder, and mental health illnesses, right? So I know I already talked about how power-based violence is kind of this overarching theme of any relationship, really, where there's a power imbalance dynamic there. So for Hartley House, that's intimate partner violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and human trafficking, right? But within this power-based violence prevention and healing space, we see individuals from all different walks of life, right, who may experience before or as a result of the power-based violence, substance use disorder, or mental health illness, which is why I thought it'd be so important to bring you in today.
Well, there's obviously a lot of intersection, unfortunately, right? I think that any time that someone is struggling with the disease of addiction and or a mental health diagnosis, which is organic, there is a potential to, again, the way you're viewing the world at that time can be skewed. It's real to you. It's important to go back to the helping relationship, to be around people who understand that and are moving away from a space of taking advantage or leading or guiding decisions that could be damaging to the person that is living with substance use disorder or a mental health diagnosis.
Yeah. So an example I could think of just off of the top of my head, right, is that unfortunately we see a lot of times, specifically in human trafficking cases, where traffickers may target those who already have substance use disorder, because unfortunately it may be easier for the trafficker than to abuse the human trafficked person by withholding substances of that nature. And so then creating a very tumultuous power dynamic in the relationship.
Going back to power, creating a power imbalance. The person becomes completely dependent on the person who is engaging in human trafficking. And then also perhaps making it worse, exacerbating an issue that is already present.
Yeah. Whether that be substance use or mental health.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thinking about the longer that you're in a relationship of that, with that much imbalance, you start to believe that that's how things are supposed to be, or that this is just my normal. And it becomes more and more challenging to be able to step out and kind of engage in that self-awareness exercise to see, oh wow, this isn't actually what I want, or I'm not as healthy as I could be. Anytime that someone is being coerced to do something, whether they are experiencing an onset of mental health symptoms, so experiencing psychosis, responding to stimuli, with substance use disorder, if you're intoxicated, that is not a healthy, reciprocal, professional relationship. And unfortunately, we do see that a lot. Anytime that if someone is in a relationship and one of the participants in said relationship is intoxicated or is experiencing mental health symptoms, let's say they're cycling in mania, and their loved one, so to speak, is coercing them to do something, right? That's a serious power imbalance at bare minimum, right? If we're like that, at the minimum, that's a power imbalance.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, we know that whether it's intentional or not, we often see a lot of individuals, victims and survivors, can be, again, targeted by abusers and perpetrators because it may be more easy to have that power imbalance in that relationship.
Absolutely. Creating an environment where someone is kept unhealthy or unwell is a prime situation to be taken advantage of.
Yes.
Something else that I've seen is the mismanagement or exploitation of money. For example, people who receive disability benefits, and how are they being supported with money that is supposed to be for food, shelter, clothing, your general health and wellness? And if you have someone helping you manage your money, what does that look like? Do you have access to your money? Are you working alongside the person who's managing your money to try to coach you and support you into, again, whatever that quality of life looks like for you? There's some autonomy that you deserve to have.
Absolutely. And we know that in 99% of intimate partner violence cases, financial abuse occurs. So we see that a lot here at Hartley House too. And that's honestly one of the main questions I get when I'm out in the community talking about Hartley House and our work and the victimizations that we support. A lot of people always ask, well, why doesn't somebody just leave that relationship? Or why doesn't somebody just leave that household? And it's so much more nuanced than that. It's so much harder than that. Again, a lot of people either feel or genuinely cannot leave because of financial barriers. And then when you add substance use or mental health issues into the mix, it can be that much harder, right? We've seen abusers and perpetrators, like you said, prevent people from taking medications that they need to, that will prevent them from going into psychosis. Right. That's absolutely going to affect most everything that they do in their life.
Absolutely.
It could affect their job. They could lose their employment, which could also in the US for those who, I keep saying for those who aren't in the US because I want to manifest that we're going to have international followers one day.
Come on down.
Yeah. But for those who are not in the US, usually, typically, somebody's insurance is pretty well tied to either their job or their income level. And so that can absolutely be a huge barrier for somebody not being able to get their medication if they don't have insurance anymore.
Absolutely. Well, and again, that goes back to this concept of keeping someone unwell.
Whether it's a disability, substance use disorder.
Exactly.
Right? Like there's so many different ways that it can reflect in a relationship.
Absolutely.
We both work with individuals who've experienced a lot of trauma, right? Could you share a little bit from your experience just how trauma and mental illness and substance use are related?
Gosh, how much time do we have?
I know. You can give us a nice overview.
I think the most important lesson that I have learned working in a co-occurring world, right? Most human service agencies are providing some level of co-occurring disorder treatment, fingers crossed.
And by co-occurring, we mean both things are happening at the same
Right.
time, meaning somebody's experiencing trauma and they are dealing with substance use disorder.
Mental health, physical health struggles. Yeah, I don't want to minimize that either, actually. That can be a huge barrier for people, is physical health issues and being bound to someone in a caretaking role. I think that's really actually something that is maybe not as acknowledged as much, is the caretaker role. And what does that look like? Caretaker is a very broad term.
Absolutely.
Whose name are on the checks, the bank accounts, things like that. I think that's really important.
And if you're relying on somebody because you have to, because of a disability, whether it is that this person needs to drive you somewhere, they are the one getting groceries.
Absolutely.
I mean, just talk about how much power is taken away from somebody in that situation out of no fault of their own.
Absolutely.
But then that other person, that caretaker, does inherently have a lot of power over the other person. And it can make it, again, just that much harder for somebody to leave an abusive situation.
Absolutely. To go back to your initial question about trauma, something that I've learned the most is that trauma is an incredibly subjective term. And it's really not important how I identify trauma. It is most important how the person that I am working with, that I am the professional with, how do they identify their trauma? That should be first and foremost. And most of the time, when even a brief assessment with people in a short-term program, there are a lot of questions that we ask about different traumatic experiences, different experiences that could be perceived as exploitation. And I try really hard to tell people when I'm asking questions, first, I know I met you 5 minutes ago, so feel free to share what you're comfortable with in this 5-minute relationship. And also, if you don't want to answer right now and you want to think about it, you can always come back to me. And as you get to know people a little bit better, sometimes experiences or situations start to naturally kind of, you can pull out a little bit, like you can kind of tease that out as you're talking with people, where they'll say, well, this happened in my neighborhood. And I try to like put that in my back pocket and just be like, okay, that happened in their neighborhood. And organically it will come through that, this happened to me in my neighborhood, but everyone goes through that in my neighborhood. So the role that we have as the helping professional is validating that was a real experience for you. Like, how did that impact you? I don't necessarily need to know how the people around you experienced it. I need to know how you experienced that, because that's the most important component. So,
absolutely. And two, I'm thinking on the flip side, right? Because, especially survivors of power-based violence, I'm sure have gone through all different kinds of systems, whether it be the legal system,
absolutely,
the clinical system, whatever it may be. Just a reminder to all of those out there listening who work with victims and survivors that like you said before, it's not our place to judge what is traumatic and not traumatic to them, right?
Absolutely.
And what's traumatic to us may not be traumatic to another person. Or
it's super important.
Right, exactly. Everybody's tolerance to trauma is very different depending on their environment, how they grew up, just, different factors within their lives, the coping skills they may have or not,
Absolutely.
right? There's so many different facets to that.
Well, and I think a lot about, even though this is the ACEs, right? Adverse childhood experiences, and how does that impact the way that people view the world as they're growing and developing into adults? Going back to relationships, what was...
Sorry, I was going to say, and for those who are like, what are they talking about? What is ACEs? What is adverse childhood experiences? And so amazing research done about how early childhood development and the experiences that we have in childhood really reflect not only our mental health as we grow, but also our physical health as well. And they have done this amazing research. And I say they because I believe
it was Kaiser Permanente did the original.
And Dr. Nadine Berkshire? Burke something, and I so apologize.
We'll enter that in.
We will enter that in. I'll put it on the screen somewhere if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're not watching on YouTube, you should watch on YouTube. But regardless, they did this amazing self-report survey that basically can tell you what your ACE score is and what your doctor should be on the lookout for as you age, because your childhood experiences can actually predict other biological markers as you grow up, like heart disease, things of that nature. High cholesterol even, I think, is one of them.
Yeah. And it's a tool. That's another plug here. All of the screening assessments that we do are tools. So people that are listening out there that are people living with substance use disorder, living with mental health diagnosis, it's a tool. It is not the be all end all of what the rest of your life is going to be. As clinicians, we use tools sometimes, and this helps us get to know you better. But ultimately, it is your experience, your story. So you can have an ACE score that is a certain amount. That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone with this score is going to experience all of these issues later in life. So,
absolutely. Yeah. And again, that's because everybody is different.
Right.
Everybody's understanding and how they feel trauma is different. And there's also protective factors as well.
Absolutely.
Which the therapeutic relationship and being in therapy can be a protective factor. And protective factor means that it actually can help people through trauma.
Absolutely. That reminds me too, something I hear a lot with younger clinicians, and I heard this a lot too as a younger clinician, and I always say to people, I'm like, when they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said this, like I made this big mistake. I'm like, I guarantee you're all good, right? Like I'm right alongside with you. We're all human, right? We share the human experience. You're a helping professional, but you're still human, right? Yes. And we make mistakes, and it's okay. I was gonna say
that we're human and we make mistakes. And I think that's really helpful for all of the helping professions out there. Sure. Whether you're a helping professional, meaning that you conduct therapy, or you're answering the door to an agency. Absolutely. A hotline
specialist,
call taker.
Yeah.
Don't know why those words are escaping me.
Those roles can be so critical to keeping someone engaged in treatment. By the time I start working with someone in my current role, they've already called and done a full phone screening with someone. The medical team has, done a brief assessment. They've probably already walked into the door and had someone help them with their belongings and walk them upstairs to grab linens for their bed. So I'm like the sixth or seventh person that starts to interact with them. The 6 people before me are far more important than I am. They are so important to people's experience. And I say this a lot, again, to students and to younger staff, that some of this also comes down to being genuine and authentic to who you are, and that can really help in that therapeutic alliance. I will never, this actually didn't happen that long ago, but I was facilitating a group.
Because again, people are human.
Absolutely.
And that's okay.
Yeah. I was facilitating a group, and this awesome guy in the front row he participated all the time. And I said something about, I think I was doing a lecture on mental health disorders. He started talking about his experience from being incarcerated. And he goes, you know what it's like, right? Like when you're incarcerated, that experience. I'm like, I do not know that experience. And I'm not going to stand up here and say, I know that experience. But I would, if you're comfortable, love to hear more about your experience. I'm all ears. I think that sometimes people feel like you have to have those experiences to be, to build that therapeutic alliance. And I would really argue that it is more, can people tell that you're being true and genuine to yourself? People are far more comfortable when you're just being who you are. And to go back to your previous comment about the nature of being with people, like being with someone when they first come in to treatment somewhere, or they first walk into services and they're really at probably one of the most vulnerable spots in their life.
Yeah.
What we do in those moments with people is so powerful, right? The human spirit displaying and modeling for people, to go back to what you had mentioned about a lot of people have been in multiple systems, legal system. We think about child welfare and the intersection of child welfare. Some of these systems have really let people down.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're telling people when they come in, don't worry, guys, trust us.
Trust this other
trust us.
system, right?
Lay it all out there. You have no reason not to trust me, right? Like, and that's what. So
That in and of itself can be traumatizing.
exactly, right? I'm like, don't worry. We're gonna do a 12-page assessment where you're gonna share everything horrible that's ever happened to you.
Yeah, most people would say absolutely not.
Exactly.
No, thank you. I'm going to leave now.
And
right?
the power, right? The power imbalance there, where I'm like, I'm going to sit behind my computer and I'm going to type, while you talk, and you're going to share all of the things that happened to you when you were a child, and like what's brought you in today, which probably wasn't something that you're pleased about.
Yeah. Probably really difficult to talk
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm going to sit here and say, lay it all out there. I think that those are skills that, I don't know if they teach you those in school. So I would argue that, again, in human service agencies, the clinical staff, the frontline staff, the administrative staff, the dietary staff, anyone there can be providing a therapeutic relationship.
Yeah. By providing that care, providing that authenticity.
Absolutely.
And making somebody feel safe when maybe they've never even felt safe before.
Absolutely.
And especially if you're listening and you're like, well, I'm not technically a helper in any way, but I am a victim or a survivor. We want you to know that we want you to feel safe.
Absolutely.
In our spaces. And we want to help you feel like you can connect with us. And we understand that it's scary.
Also, if you're a survivor, you are providing a helping experience. You're living your life. You're being true to yourself. You're being true. You're being genuine. You're being authentic. That can be really, really helpful for people to see.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
Just being able to share space with people with lived experience. So, I don't know if this is relevant, but I want to bring this part up too.
Please.
I think that it's important in the settings that we work in. And I'm focusing a lot on the role of the helper.
Well, and that's something we haven't talked about on the podcast yet.
Okay,
so
good.
That's perfect.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that a little anecdote I wanted to share about the therapeutic relationship, but we have a lot of staff who've worked at Avery Road for a long time. And
they're like a part of the institution.
Yeah, you want to talk about fabric of an organization? Like people that I'm like, I come to work and I'm like, I love you so much because seeing you makes me so happy. And I will have people who come into treatment and are really struggling physically, and they'll be in our lobby, and it's just they're struggling, haven't eaten for days, crying. And I can go into our cafeteria, and a lot of our dietary staff will go and create them their own plate and like cut the crust off of their bread just to provide them an experience where they feel loved, supported, and cared for. Like your life matters. Like you being here today matters.
And again, that may seem small, but that's huge.
So
Taking
huge.
the time
So
to get to
huge.
know somebody, their preferences and what they need in that moment really can be life altering.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And especially for helpers, I know that this profession can be really difficult and burn people out. And that's why, like you said before, it's so important that we're also focusing on what are we doing, right? How are we? Because if we are not doing well, we are going to, whether we like it or not, we are going to reflect that. So how can the Frederick community help when it comes to anything that we talked about today? Power-based violence, substance use, or mental illness?
Again, that's a tall order. We
I
don't have 6 hours today, unfortunately, Caroline.
Tell us everything you know in 40 minutes. Thank you.
I might break out in a song and dance. I don't know how much time we have.
We can go on Broadway.
We could.
Wicked?
We could.
Okay.
But I'm going to sing for Elphaba. Can you be Glinda?
I would love to be Glinda, but you don't want to hear me sing. I will dance my heart out, though.
Okay. I think we have a future in this.
Yeah, I do have tap shoes at home, so.
That's me.
We need to switch outfits, though.
The acoustics are great in here, so I don't even need a prop. I can just belt it out.
Again, for those who are not watching, you should watch on YouTube. It's actually perfect because I'm wearing green and Lauren is wearing pink. So we just need to switch outfits.
Popular. Okay, so I think what is really important is continuing to have Hartley House. We go back to students because that's a lot of how we met is working with students, and that's a shared passion of ours, which is awesome. But I think continuing to provide opportunities for helping professions in the local colleges and universities, whether it's a bachelor's level placement, an associate's level placement, a master's level placement, to continue to have exposure to what goes on in organizations like Hartley House. When we don't provide those experiences, it can kind of feel like there's Iron Curtain. I don't know, like there's like this barrier of we don't really know what goes on, and that might impact people feeling comfortable to talk about what happens at organizations. And then when we don't talk about things, it becomes taboo, which we don't want that. We want to minimize that. We want to minimize the stigma. And the way we do that is by being open and genuine and authentic.
Which again, going back to the social work principles, core values, trauma-informed care principles is about transparency.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Telling people the actual steps of what it's going to look like. And actually, when I worked with an agency called Turnaround in Baltimore, gosh, it's been so long. I don't remember if I actually filmed it or not. Before I ended up switching to work for Hartley House, but I know we were working on a video that would really tell people, okay, when you call hotline, this is exactly how it's going to look.
Absolutely.
Right? To give that transparency. And again, I know I'm talking more about the victims, survivors, clients here. But that was so helpful
100%.
to get people to be like, oh, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen. And so making that phone call is not as scary because I can at least predict the process of what is going to go through.
Well, and for people who have only experienced chaos and unpredictability,
yes,
having that as a constant could be very reassuring. Very reassuring.
And also, again, reassuring for the workers too. If there is no direction, that can be really hard for the workers as well, because then they're trying to manage their own emotions, what they have to do, and also the client.
Absolutely.
And
It
their
keeps everyone
emotions.
safe.
Yes.
The consistency and the structure can keep people safe.
Yes. 100%.
So I'm all for it. Yeah. So more internships, more field placements.
That direct experience is so important. My first internship, I learned so much.
Same.
Invaluable experience.
I would definitely say it was life-changing for me. I went into my first field placement and as a graduate student and was like, this is not for me. I don't want to work with this population. And that's become the passion of my life. So you want to talk about going in with an open mind. I was proven wrong. I went in, started working with people living with chronic and persistent mental illness, and I have not looked back.
It's funny you say that because, well, I always knew I wanted to work in the power-based violence space. And my first internship was with power-based violence prevention space, and fell in love with it. Was like, there's no other population I can work with.
I can tell that about you.
Yeah.
You're in a good role for the things you're good at.
Well, thank you. I very much appreciate that. And so are you. And one day I will be a student in your classroom because I need to take one of your classes. But while we're at the end of today's podcast, I just wanted to ask you, what keeps you grounded?
What a great question. So I have an amazing family. I'm married to a social worker.
Ooh, that is phenomenal. I mean, talk about power couple.
And he is in every way the best balance for me. Amazing. We have 3 children. Nothing like 3 children under the age of 7 to keep you humble. Just say that. But I think the most important thing, and I mean this this is another huge, I think, component of who I am, along with being a social worker, which has been the greatest honor of my life, is not taking myself so seriously or too seriously. We are all, again, go back to that like shared human experience. There's nothing that I'm doing that is better than anyone else or puts me above anyone else. I'm doing different things than other people, but other people have some really cool stuff going on. And I think that's really, really important. Laughing about it, gosh, if there's something to laugh about, I'm in. Like, count me in. So,
and to really bring it full circle to the beginning of the episode where you talked about humility and, oh my goodness, what was the other word? I had it in my head and then I went to go speak my sentence and it came out of the abyss of my brain. I don't remember the word you said, but you've really brought that full circle of how humble you are and how self-aware, that was the word, how self-aware you are and how that keeps you grounded. I mean, that's so beautiful.
we'll talk about a great supervisor. She worked at Waste Station and before it became Shepherd Pratt. And she used to say, and I believe this so truly, that when you feel like you've arrived, you need to be taken down a couple notches. And that's so true because none of us are done learning. I am not beyond being checked, right? Like, please, that needs to happen because none of us know everything. There's always going to be someone out there, whether they're another helping professional or someone you meet at the parking garage. Like, I could leave right now and go down the parking garage and be like, oh, I learned something new today. And that's awesome.
Yeah. Again, we could bring that into our personal lives as helping professionals, but also into the lives when we're working with clients, right? Not assuming.
Absolutely. And
not judging.
Don't, in whatever arena you work with someone, whether, like going back to whether you're working with a client, a patient, consumer, never minimize the role that you could have in helping to keep someone engaged in treatment. Whether you're answering the phone, whether you're, sitting at the front desk helping to check people in, like your presence in that agency really, really matters.
Absolutely. And I hope that empowers everyone too, because, and this will be the last thing I promise. I think a lot of people can get down, or I've heard people get down on others who don't have that degree, don't have that master's degree of social work, or put in whatever credentials you want at the end of the name. And they can really be down on themselves and feel like they're not making a difference. But that is the farthest from the truth. Everyone makes a difference.
100%. 100%. The reason I'm in human services is I had the opportunity to be a summer counselor at a residential treatment program, also in Rockville. And I worked with adolescent girls. And my supervisor did not have a formal education. She did not have letters behind her name. But I'll tell you what, when things were going down on that unit, that's who you wanted next to her. And the reason I stayed in the field is because I worked under her as a summer employee when I was 21 years old. That's why I'm here. So I will never forget the kindness and the support and the encouragement from staff who probably weren't treated as well as they should have been in that multidisciplinary team. And I think that's probably has a lot to do with my passion of trying to empower everyone in an agency, because everyone in an agency, whether you're working at Hartley House, whether you're working at Shepherd Pratt, your work matters. You're helping people. You are a helping professional, period.
Well, thank you again, Lauren, for being on today, for sharing your amazing insight and all of the wisdom you have. But how long have you been in the field?
Well, I'm 39 and I have
I didn't mean to out you.
Listen, that's okay. That's all right. So what, 21? Well, I was when I started working. Yeah, I'm not good at math.
That's okay. Somebody else can do that math.
That's how long?
A good amount of time. Well, thank you so much for sharing your amazing insight. And thank you all to our listeners for tuning in to the podcast today on the official podcast of Hartley House, titled Connect and Thrive, because when Frederick County thrives, Hartley House thrives. See you next time.